Good evening, sir. I'm Ayushi, and I'm an economics student at Shriram College of Commerce, and I'm here as a volunteer of NSS SRCC. And Saransh, you can go next.
Hi, my name is Saransh. I'm a musician and I'm studying at the True School of Music in Mumbai.
Nice.
And today we are here to talk to you about men's mental health on behalf of Team Zaria.
All right.
So, sir, first, we would like to know, our audience would like to know what led you to this profession and why you chose this career path for you. So, if you could briefly introduce yourself for us.
All right. Hello, guys. This is Dr. Aman Bhosle. I'm a psychotherapist, mindset coach. I'm an author. I've written 3 books. I also train people in a modality known as applied transactional analysis. I have also been exclusively trained in CBT, known as cognitive behavior therapy, also alternatively known as rational emotive behavior therapy, and the Rogerian approach to counseling, which is basically what my institute trains people in. So there are 2 sides to what I do. I train people, but I also have my private practice, which means my clients see me over video calls the way you guys are chatting with me right now. So I wasn't always a psychotherapist, and this can be found out on Google as well. I spent a decade in television advertising, of which I spent many years living in Singapore and in Malaysia. I used to work in promotions, which meant dealing with marketing, selling TV shows, and I had a very lucrative and joyful ride in that industry. It was a bumpy ride, but one that gave me my bearings about how to get my hands dirty in the world of corporates. So I also do corporate trainings because having been one of them, now I can also offer a completely different range of services to them, having understood how the clock ticks when you work for a corporate. So what got me into the fray of mental health? Well, I guess when you have 2 psychotherapists as your parents and you're growing up and you see how they kind of reach out, do community outreach, help people, there's always a curiosity about what is this, what is this profession all about? Why do they feel the need to help people? Why do the people feel the need to seek out help? So I never really thought much about it, but I suppose like in the movie Inception, there was this idea in my head. And as they say, an idea is a very resilient parasite. So there was this idea in my head that, maybe people need help and maybe they aren't getting it. Because we all know that our school system largely fails us in preparing us emotionally for the many stresses of life. We also know that our families fill us with prejudices and biases and fears of, so many different types. And, we become adults largely by default rather than by design. So we're all confused for most of our lives, and very often people feel like they're the only ones who are confused. I'm so alone, I'm so confused, I don't know what to do, what to wear, who to meet, what to eat, when to marry, what profession to choose, what college to go into. There's all these myriad of questions, and I was no exception to that as well. All right, so I went through a difficult patch emotionally after a certain breakup of mine, as one does. I mean, I've never heard someone saying I had a breakup and it was wonderful. No, of course, there's misery, there's self-doubt, there's blame, there's sleepless nights. There's that one playlist where there are way too many songs by the band Coldplay. You know what I mean? Coldplay ka music sunte hain log, Kumar Sanu for some older people. But I went through a very difficult patch. It was a very dark patch for me. And then I said, oh, so that's what depression's all about. So this is what mom and dad have been doing. Now I finally understand it. And having gone through it, it's extremely humiliating and it makes you feel like an alien. And it's a horrible feeling. And you feel very alone. And no one wants to help you because no one even understands what's happening with you. They say, Arey, stop being so emotional. Stop being so dramatic. Stop being so, get over it. People say it as if it's something like you need to quit. So I started reading self-help books and I said, this is a lot more interesting than I thought it was. Now first I started reading about psychology to help myself. Then I said, now that I have helped myself, why don't I try helping others? So then I trained myself. I already had an MBA in communications management. I said, thoda aur padhai kar lete hain. A lot of people didn't know that I was studying for my PhD. I had my job at the Discovery Channel Singapore, but at nights I would be Batman. No, I would open my books, work for my PhD, do my research, etc., etc. Studied transactional analysis, loved it so much, wrote a book on it. So that's the long and short of a journey that's been dynamic since 2005 when I got my first job and couldn't even grow a mooch. I was very young when I started working. So it's been a labyrinthine journey. I've also written about this in my book, Essential TA, so which is available on Amazon, etc. So I do feel like this is my second career. So I do approach things not in a very conventional and linear way. I think mental health is a topic that is filled with a lot of seriousness. I think it can be seen with a certain amount of with a certain amount of curiosity and, God forbid, a little bit of humor as well, because at the end, apart from being carbon based organisms, you're also very prone to habits and patterns, which is what TA is all about, the analysis of human behavior, thought and emotions through those paradigms that are pattern based, which are quite funny to see, because once you figure it out, you're like, oh my God, this is what I've been doing and this is what's been limiting me. So that's a little bit about me, guys.
That sounds so interesting. I have so many questions for you now.
हाँ डाल दो
But,
पूरे question डाल दो मेरे में. हाँ, let me drink water from this green bottle.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So we have prepared a few questions for you that we wanted to ask you.
Sure.
So first, I would like to ask you: do you think men's mental health is overlooked more often, and if yes, why is that?
Well, you see, men's mental health is such a broad topic. I think mental health in general has been such a hush-hush topic, right? I mean, when I was in school, you guys are much younger, I assume. I'm 35 years old. When I was in school, there was no concept of a school counselor. So whether you're a man or a woman, I think mental health itself was not a priority. It's not been a government priority since the beginning of God knows when. Even right now, only the really fancy schools have a school counselor, because people think emotional problems come from being weak or not working hard enough, which is not the case. So I think men in general as well have been conditioned and forced into being leaders from a patriarchal family structure perspective. And we have to understand that leaders may be groomed, but leaders cannot be forced. Some people aren't good at assuming those roles. So I meet a lot of men who have had to suddenly take over family businesses, who have suddenly had to be responsible for a wife and a kid, who suddenly have to pay off a loan, who suddenly have to switch careers because COVID has changed how money comes in the house. And they're like, why do I have to do all these things? Because I'm a man. All I wanted to do was play FIFA, have pizza, and enjoy my life. So there is this expectation of men to set a tone, to protect the family, to generate wealth, to continue the cultural and social traditions, which is one of the many reasons why they feel a lot of pressure. Also, culturally speaking, in India, being largely a patriarchal society, not all of India is patriarchal, by the way, but a large chunk of the country is. There is also this depiction in pop culture and cinema. I remember my first memory, but the first man I ever saw on TV was He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which is a cartoon, and he's without a shirt and he's like completely, he's got this magical sword and he's riding a tiger. And so as young boys, we are conditioned to believing that to be a man is to be strong all the time, unconditionally, without question, strong for yourself, strong for your family, strong for your community, strong for your office, strong for your country. If you even traditionally see the history and evolution of mankind, it's always been the men who've been sent to fight wars. It's always been the men who have to get off the ship when it's sinking much later. Women and children get off first, men can sit here and die. So you see this cultural expectation that to be a man is to be strong all the time can be very, very exhausting. It's a burden you're carrying for generations, because it's not necessary that your gender gives you strength. Your attitude and proclivities give you strength, not your chromosomes. Okay. So this expectation that, okay, if you're a man, like Amitabh Bachchan, I remember when I was really young, I used to watch these movies where he's constantly jumping from roofs. If he wants to rescue someone, he doesn't enter normally. He's on a roof waiting for the right moment and he jumps down and rescues people. So I remember I also used to try to jump down from various places, thinking that that's what men do. We're supposed to have magical swords, jump from roofs, and even if no one requires our help, we come and say, "I'm the man. I will protect you." Even Raksha Bandhan as a tradition, tie a rakhi, protect your sister. Why? What if she's fierce and strategically placed to protect herself better? What makes you think you can protect her? Isn't that a little arrogant? As sweet as Raksha Bandhan is, why don't you tie her a rakhi saying, "Bhai, humko bhi dekho kabhi kabhi. I may feel weak, I may feel tired, I may feel confused, and I may need you." If you're an elder sister, I've seen little baby who's like 2-month-old baby, but the sister is like 4 years old. She requires his protection. Poor guy can't even turn. He can't even move his hand together. So these are cultural indices of what each gender is supposed to do. So we're kind of chaperoned into these roles by our families. कि तुम ऐसा करो, तुम वैसा करो. All right. And I feel in today's society we need to be a little more gender fluid, because I've said this in my other webinars as well. Mumbai is an expensive city. If both of y'all aren't making money, then it may be relatively challenging to get stuff done, to buy stuff, and to live a respectable life. So I do feel men's mental health is being neglected largely because of the cultural expectations of men to constantly show strength, constantly provide leadership, and constantly figure things out. So yes, it is being neglected. That is my answer.
Sir, I agree with you that you talked about the notions prevalent in our society that men have to be dependable, they have to be masculine, they have to support and provide for the family, they have to be financially strong.
Yeah.
But sir, more often we find men don't find it easier to communicate these to their partners, to their wives, to their children, or even to their peers around.
All right.
So why do you think that is that's stopping men from telling it, to coming out and telling and accepting this fact that they're not mentally well, they're not doing mentally well, and how can we overcome this lack of communication, which is very much prevalent in our societies?
Well, I think by destigmatizing counseling services, I think I have a lot of male clients as well. I think now, especially in the larger metros and those who can afford to go to a psychotherapist, see, change begins in the house. When people ask me this question, how can we change society? I said, you realize society is just a group of houses, right? A group of different houses, like in Game of Thrones. You have all those different houses, House Targaryen, etc., etc. So change has to begin at a granular level. So if a man is ashamed, why is he ashamed? Because he was made to feel shame for his emotions in his house, by his mother, by his father, by his elder sibling, by his uncles, by his aunts, by his grandparents, by his society, by everyone who was responsible for his well-being. So as individuals, we need to ask ourselves a broader question: why do we have to be ashamed of certain emotions, and why do we have to be proud of certain emotions? Why can't we treat all our emotions with a certain amount of equality and dignity? Why is happiness less controversial than jealousy, for that matter? It's an emotion, so it has to be dealt with one way or the other. An emotion is that part of your functioning that's kind of like the back office. There's something is churning, kuch to paperwork baki hai, something needs to be pushed from one desk to the other desk. So I think it all begins with destigmatizing feeling emotions, understanding that being emotional is a part of not just being human, but part of being a living organism. Some people would argue that even the plants behind Ayushi are emoting right now. And there is proof that plants have emotion. Irrefutable proof that my dear friend Google Ji Maharaj would also tell you. Every living organism has emotions. So why are we being made to feel ashamed for having something that everyone has? It's not about avoiding emotions. It's about processing emotions, understanding them, and letting those emotions inform what you need to do in the long term, in the short term, rather than becoming subservient to them. So that's the trick, isn't it? That's what mindfulness is about, right? All these people with beards longer than mine telling you about be mindful, observe your thoughts. So it's not the intellectualization. There's some value to be found there. All right. But that's what I feel. I hope that answers it, or do you want me to elaborate further? Do ask me. I can always.
No, sir, it answers.
That was
It answers.
really good. So you talked about how the change has to start from the family, like
Yeah.
in a house, and you talked about society. So, and I know you talked about this earlier, but how do you think the patriarchal nature and that setup of our society, which has been going on for I think for a really long time, how does that affect a man's mental health, and how can we make the situation better?
Patriarchy is a template. It's a behavioral template that has been passed on by culture. All behavioral templates have a beginning, right? Patriarchy was perhaps necessary back in the days when men went out to fight wars, which meant that they were in charge of the socio-political framework of the village before there were big cities with big buildings and IMAX and what is that, Wow Momos chain. Before all these things were there were villages and there was farming and there were joint families. Go back even more. Before that, there were wars, there were warlords, there was feudalism, zamindari. Traditionally, we are a agricultural country, if you understand. So back then, men were in charge because men fought wars and because they controlled the borders. Because back then there was no commando unit sitting in Delhi. There were no cops. There was no Nana Patekar to shout at you and say "Wapas jao." You understand? So that's why men were in a position and they were primed for decision making because they required to keep the borders of the village safe. They required to protect the women because back in the old days, right, a woman was vulnerable if she was captured by the invaders. She would be gang raped, she would be impregnated forcibly, kept in a harem. This is part of our history. I'm not making any of this up. And all invaders have done it. Invaders not of any particular religion. Whether you go to the US and see how the native Indians were massacred. All right. Whether you see how Japan treated Korea during the war. Whether what the Brits came and did out here. Or whether even before the Brits came, what the kings and queens in ancient India were doing to their people. There are many stories. Okay, so if you're a keen student of history, you'll understand that war was a part of our reality, and life expectancy also was not very high because medical science hadn't advanced. So that's why men were forced to take on leadership roles because, hey, you're the one fighting the war. Hey, you're the one in charge of the politics. Hey, you're the physically stronger one. You're the one who doesn't get pregnant. So therefore, you're the one who needs to go out. You're the one with denser bones. So you're the one in charge. So I think now in a civilized society where you have cooperative societies and you have gluten-free foods and sugar-free ice cream, I think the density of your bones doesn't have to play a role in how primed you are to make pivotal decisions that affect the family. So I think patriarchy is a template belonging to a different time period where it made sense for that template to exist. But today, I mean, not just metaphorically, but literally, the two genders are equal, especially in big cities like Bombay. Some people will say, but what about the villages? Okay, fine. Certain advancements haven't been accrued to those villages. But if you look about a modern metropolis, a woman and a man can go toe to toe when it comes to earning money. They are equal in the eyes of the law, or so they say. They have opportunities for education to get into any field of their choice. So these attitudes which have been passed down like heirlooms need to be revisited, organized, and some things need to expire with time. दूध खराब हो जाती है सारांश तो उसको फेंक देते हैं कि नहीं? Attitudes के साथ ये नहीं होता. When someone has an attitude belonging to which has expired and gone past its date, वो अभी भी family में pass on हो रहा है, regurgitate हो रहा है. People say this is my culture. I ask a very simple question. Why do you have to inherit your culture? Why can't you design your own culture based on new information, based on what you see, based on travel, based on ideas of decency and dignity? Why can't you design it? Why are you slaves to what somebody in 1942 created for you, which made sense in 1942 but doesn't make sense in 2021? No? So these are my thoughts.
Definitely, sir. Sir, now I'd like to bring the issue of lockdown and the pandemic into the picture.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that a lot of people lost their jobs, unemployment, it skyrocketed. People were forced to go back to their villages, especially the migrant workers. And those were the people who earned for their families. And And now also we see that in a normal classic middle class home,
Yeah.
it's a man who feeds the entire family. Mostly, it's not the women's job. So now, when the man of the house was supposed to be caged in that place, and we still saw that the women was only assigned the domestic chores, like it has been going on since forever. So how do you think all of that, the pandemic, the lockdowns, the distress has intensified and exacerbated this issue?
Well, pain can be processed in a variety of ways. Either pain can force you to stay stagnant and be a victim of the pain. And the coronavirus, the COVID induced situation, has caused a kind of mass societal pain, which is very rare and which a lot of generations have not, uh, you know, ever experienced before. So, as I said, either through the pain you stay stagnant and say we've been doing things this way, we will continue to do things this way because this is the way familiar to us, this is the way known to us, or that pain becomes a catalyst for change. And you say, you know what, the money is stopped, we can't go out, so do we need to embrace a completely new business model or do we need to completely start something new? So, in life, many times, Ayushi, we need to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves a very basic question. And that question is very simple. That question is, how can I do this better? Or what can I do to improve the current status of my life? Whether it's the people I let around me, whether it's the amount of money I'm able to generate, whether how I manage my health, whether how I'm able to take care of my family. These are all large questions that need answers. How can I do better? What can I do better? And is there even a need to do better? Or am I just someone who's like a bit of a self-improvement junkie? So this a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have been laid off. They have not gotten money that was owed to them. A lot of people are stuck in limbo. Na idhar ke na wahan ke. So they need to get organized. If you want to escape adversity, you got to get organized. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to figure out if there is a way to move the business or the services that you offer online. Fortunately for consultants like me, this is actually more convenient for us. The amount of money I save on staff and petrol, which is now skyrocketing, 100 rupees a liter, is a lot. I'm still earning a similar amount of money, but my expenses have largely reduced. So for a consultant, because our opinion is our product and our service, it's easy. But for some people who rely on warehousing, transportation services, staffs, who are tethered to government protocol, or who have to coordinate between various regions of the country, I can understand that the challenge for them is a lot different. So then they are the experts of their industry. So for example, a lot of restaurants have shut down, but they have metamorphosized into home kitchens. And they are now using WhatsApp and Instagram to market their products, finding a very loyal and dedicated customer base. Services like Porter, VFast, Dunzo were unheard of. Zoom was unheard of. But people are finding a way to adapt. So this whole new normal discussion has to be extended further and further. You got to keep pushing the boundaries of what is possible. We live in a beautiful time period. It's beautiful because we have Wi-Fi. I think y'all may have had the internet ever since y'all can remember. I distinctly remember the pre-internet era where I used to sit in the library for hours looking for the right book, turning to the right page and then scribbling down the notes on my little notebook because there were no laptops, there were no smart devices. It just take me hours to get it and then transcribe that in fair, and then if you make a mistake, write it again. So that used to take so long. Now all you need to do is go on Google, copy the text, paste it, make a few changes, khatam kahani. So things are a lot quicker now. We are a lot more nimble as a society. We're agile. So I think we must use that to our advantage to reorganize ourselves to solve all possible problems, not just the problem of where is money going to come from or how are we going to meet our friends. All problems can be solved. If you can't solve it, find someone who can navigate you towards a solution. This is why counselors exist. So similarly, we have to be adaptable in the services we offer. We have to be adaptable in the way we deal with other people, with the way we do business. Otherwise, the COVID is just the start of many, many other challenges you'll face. So this is a good time for people to get organized and ask themselves the question, how can I do this better? How can I be more flexible? And how can I change myself or change the way I get work done?
Right. Sir, so taking this further, I wanted to ask you that, like sometimes if a man is going through a rough patch in his life, and even if they try to reach out to other people and discuss their problems, open up, they get to hear things like, "Oh, be a man, men don't cry, man up," things like that. So, how do you think such practices affect that person's health, and how do you think we can like how do you think we can how do I say this,
circumvent this this
right
meanness?
Thank you.
Right. So, Saransh,
Yeah.
we have an option to ignore a lot of things that people say to us. So if I gave you a call every day at 11 a.m. in the morning and said, Saransh, you're a giraffe, and you better believe it. I'm arranging to have you moved to Africa. You bloody giraffe. How dare you live among us humans? By the third day, you will block my number. Say, the Dr. Aman's crazy. He keeps calling me at 11 in the morning, calling me a giraffe. पता नहीं कैसा psychotherapist है, खुद ही psycho लगता है हमको. What will you do? You will block me beyond the point. Similarly, we have to develop this ability to block out the opinions of other people. We put a premium on the opinions of other human beings. You know why do we do this? Because we are trained to do this. When we are young, when you're 4 years old or when you're 6, what are you told constantly, Saransh? Listen to your elders. Trust your elders. Don't back answer. Do what you're told. Don't be loud. Fall in line. Finish your homework. Don't act over smart. Don't talk too much. Don't interrupt the teacher. अगर आपको सुसु भी आई है तो परमिशन मांगिए टीचर से. So ये हमारे जहन में बात जाके बैठ चुकी है कि हमारे ओपिनियंस ही नहीं है, लेकिन दूसरों के ओपिनियंस, अरे बाप रे, that is something great that must be adhered to and celebrated and listened to. So if someone tells me that अरे तेरा कुछ नहीं होगा, it's probably true. How can they know who you are, what you are and what you are capable of, yaar? Someone who barely sees you once in a while and who only wishes you happy birthday on WhatsApp, वो तुम्हारी अंदर की सच्चाई जान पाएगा? इतने तुम ओपन बुक हो? नहीं हो, कोई भी नहीं होता. I keep telling my clients that even your father and mother don't know you the way you know you. It's a very romanticized idea that my parents know me better than I know myself. It's bullshit. You know yourself better than any other person, better than even your counselor knows you. Yes, you may have some unwrapping to do. So the counselor will help you know yourself better through various questions. We ask very pointed questions, and then people move from I don't know to okay, maybe this is what I do know. So self-awareness is the antidote to this this kind of stuff where people come and say be a man, men don't cry boy. I used to go for soccer, firstly I hate the game, all right, I hate football. I remember once telling all the boys that why doesn't everyone get a ball, ek ball ke piche sab bhag rahe hain, and they used to cry, Saransh mere ko tune pass kyun nahi kiya, I was open. I used to find it very asinine. I said 2 घंटे बैठ के एक बॉल को किक कर रहे हैं और मैं यहाँ फालतू बैठा हूँ गोल के पास. What a useless way of spending my day. I'm also a musician, Saransh. I used to play the keyboard. I said, music compose karo yaar. Why am I kicking the ball around? So annoying. I used to read books like a crazy guy. I used to finish books like at rapid speed. So I never understood the idea of soccer. And I remember once this boy fell down and he grazed his knee. खून आ रहा था. 7-8 साल का बच्चा हुआ होगा, है कि नहीं? And the coach came and said, this is not a sport for girls. If you want to, be like a girl, go play hopscotch with the girls. Tie a ponytail and wear a frock. You want to cry? You don't play soccer with us. I remember seeing the coach say that. Now the coach was this gentleman from Kerala, so with a thick mooch and very surly, burly looking guy. So who knows what that, I don't even remember that boy's name, but maybe that boy may have trusted his coach. And who knows if his entire life he's been somebody who represses his emotions. So how do we become this way? We have a lot of faith in the words of others. I say, question that faith. Men do cry, boys do cry. अमिताभ से लेकर शाहरुख खान सब रोए हैं, नाना पाटेकर भी रोया है. Second time I've mentioned him, one of my favorite actors. Everybody cries when you're overwhelmed by a situation, when there are so many emotions and it requires. Soldiers cry in movies as well when they lose their brothers in arms on the battlefield. Even Kapil Dev had famously cried during his interview with Karan Thapar. I remember I was in school when that happened and everyone was like, Kapil Dev has cried. My goodness. I said, so what? He's a human being. Before he learned to throw a ball, he was crying. When you are born and you come out of your mother's womb, the first thing you do is you cry. So it is an innate part of. You don't come out and start singing Daler Mehndi songs, do you? You've come out of your mother's womb, you've been pulled out, and suddenly you start singing Tunak Tunak Tung Ta Da Da. No, you start crying. Because that's the first way in which a human being learns to express himself. As a child, you can't even turn from one side. If you see a small baby, he's put like this on the bed. वो इधर से इधर भी नहीं हो सकता. You can't even move your neck. You have to burp him. You have to wipe his butt. You have to make sure he doesn't eat too much or he'll puke. But he knows how to cry. That's the one thing he knows how to do. So why are we so averse to crying when it's something we are probably been doing? That's the first thing we did when we came in this world. So that's what I ask people to do. रोने को मन कर रहा है, cry by all means, get it out यार, दिल का हल्का हो जाता है. It feels nice, you know. You feel, because once all those emotions have settled, you can be a lot more practical and rational, and you can get organized, which is what I've been saying. You got to get organized.
Yes, so you've already touched upon my next question, which is about popular culture. So I'm a firm believer in popular culture, like books, movies, shows, songs, whatever's trending, I have to know about it.
Okay.
So now, but I see how is it displayed, how mental health is displayed on the big screen.
Okay.
It's always biased like towards women. Like the movie which came out in India, which I can recall right now, is Dear Zindagi, where Alia Bhatt was seeing her therapist, which was Shah Rukh Khan.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only movie where mental health was displayed at its core. At its, the rawness was displayed there. But in other movies, we see that a lot of times, whenever a man cries, whenever he shows vulnerability, it's not something accepted. It's just the society cannot digest the fact that a man is crying. And like when Will Smith cried on TV, we saw a lot of memes which were made on him. Rather than society accepting and acknowledging that the man had a catharsis, let him go through that. He had a situation with him. But people started making memes on it. That is how the society, the fickle-minded society, reacts to these situations. So, and since you've been a person who's been into advertising also, we see social media campaigns running on mental health. The media, the normal media, how it perceives mental health, like the news channels, the news showrooms, they have a very narrow definition of mental health. And these organizations are where people take their information from. That is how people learn. That is how people expect that they should behave. Like for a teenager like me, I would want to be somebody from a movie rather than a real life inspiration, because that is more appealing to me. That's what pop culture does to us. It's ingrained in us. So sir, what are your thoughts on this particular thing about?
So understand one thing, you see, no piece of pop culture exists without reason. It's always been created by design. Someone like me is sitting in a edit suite and creating a certain product, something that you view. Maybe it's the Family Man season 2, or it's a meme, or it's one of Yashraj Mukhate's videos, Pauri Ori hai. It's been created by someone on a software to have a desired emotional impact. So when I used to train media students back in the day, I've done a lot of talks. I used to play a certain movie scene without music and then with music, and say, look at the difference, just that musical track is playing. There's that theme song, when Simba enters, in Rohit Shetty's movies, and the music plays. Oh yeah, police! There's something in you, that excites you, that it's so stupid and silly. It's like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. But that music has been created by someone who understands the science of acoustics, who understands the balance and interplay of instruments. A.R. Rahman is the master of that. Or Amit Trivedi. These people are trained in inducing emotions in you. That's their training. And why are they doing it? For money, for visibility, and for the sake of the art form. So we have to enjoy these things, but not let them carry us away with the tide, you know what I mean? And that requires a certain amount of detachment Yet that doesn't mean you stop enjoying all these things. Now, you're talking to me about meme culture. A meme is essentially an evolution of a joke. It's supposed to be a visual joke. And let's face it, humor, I feel, is needed in every aspect of society. So, while it may come across as tone deaf or insensitive to make fun of a crying man, but I assure you, this is not the first time that a crying man has been turned into a meme. There's this Japanese politician known as Ryotoru Nonomura, and you can look him up on Google. He started crying when he got called out for embezzlement, and he cried in a very spectacular and very musical way. So there are videos of people doing guitar covers of how he cried. He made a lot of different sounds. So this is what it is. I mean, people are looking for variety entertainment, Ayushi. I say this to a lot of people. I ask my clients, how would you define the world in one word, which is not judgmental? The world is bad. The world is unfair. No, these are okay. A little judgmental. The world is opportunistic, Ayushi. It will bank on all possible opportunities, an opportunity to create, an opportunity to add commentary. And that's kind of one of the downsides, or you could also say one of the fantastic attributes of a democracy. Everyone can say everything and not necessarily agree. So all forces need to exist. Like I keep saying this as well. If you only experience pleasure from the moment you're born, you will lose value for pleasure. Then one day you'll try to cut yourself out of curiosity. ये क्या होता है? Why do people talk about pain? This is what happened with the Buddha. He was constantly put on a path of only pleasure, luxuries. He was a prince known as Prince Siddharth. And one day he was let out of his bungalow. He saw a sick man, an old man, and a dead man. And he couldn't process that. He said, I never knew something like this exists. And that one visit outside sent him on a lifelong path towards spirituality, towards the understanding of what does life really mean. What is the meaning of suffering? Why do we suffer? Do only certain people suffer, or does everyone suffer? If so, why? How do we get out of it? Do we even need to get out of it? These are all the existential questions that philosophers have been asking each other. And every school of thought has tried to build on these ideas. Okay. So, pop culture is a reflection of our society, but it doesn't have to be something that you draw from indiscriminately. Enjoy it. It's fine. It's like this. It's like French fries are available for you to order. But if you only eat French fries and don't eat other food groups which provide you with certain types of nutrients, you're going to put on weight. You're going to become very unhealthy. Your triglycerides and cholesterol are going to speak of your bad habits. So the way while eating, like the Indian thali, if you look at it, it's got a little bit of everything. There's a little sweet, there's two types of dal, there's sabjis, there's pickle, there's chutney, there's roti, there's rice, there's khichdi. If you go for a Gujarati thali, there's a lovely and colorful balance of many different things. That's how life has to be as well. You can't just be like, oh, pop culture, Kabir Singh he's angry, that means I must be angry because angry people are cool. You cannot be naive about it, and if you are naive, then it's going to be very easy to manipulate you. चंद शब्दों में आप पढ़ जाओगे तो फिर तो कोई भी आपको उल्लू बना देगा, है कि नहीं? So it's very important to understand the role of pop culture, but don't see it as the only source of information, because as I said, a lot of that is just pure emotion bundled and packaged from a commerce perspective.
How has the outlook on depression and abuse changed in our country in the recent times?
So a lot. I said this actually my most recent webinar. I was asked this question, so I'll just repeat that answer, but I'll keep it short. See, what has happened with depression is a lot of important and famous people have started talking about it. So I remember when Deepika Padukone spoke about it, everyone got excited about this new word. What is depression? What is depression? Is it biochemical? Does it have more to do with cognitive functioning or the endocrine system? Or these are the big questions. When Sushant Singh died, people spoke about depression. When Robin Williams hung himself, people spoke about depression. So these are famous people. These are household names. So when your heroes and icons start getting affected by something, it starts beginning to feel real. If these people couldn't escape it, then what chances do I have? I'm not a millionaire. I don't drive a Bentley. I may be a shikar of it as well. So the discussion has opened up, the floor has opened up, but yet the understanding is extremely muddled. So to those people, I would say, don't just take my word for it. Go on Google and go to a website. Go to the Mayo Clinic website or something which is a very medically sound website, and look up what depression really is. Don't just listen to what your friends are passing along as WhatsApp university knowledge, because these phenomena are so largely misunderstood, right? People say I'm depressed because मेरे को वाईफाई नहीं आ रहा है 2 दिन से. I'm depressed क्योंकि water logging हो गया है मेरे area में. I mean, these words are also used very loosely. So you got to understand that, okay, you can use the word loosely, it's a democracy, but that's not really what depression is. You don't get anxiety because all the chivda and khaman has finished in your house and you need to order some more. You don't get anxiety because of petrol prices being high. Anxiety is a very real problem that can lead to problems like sleep deprivation, insomnia, night terrors, food disorders, branching from that. So these things are felt, as a culture, as a society as well. We experience these, but I think we need to understand what it entails before, we use these terms so loosely and say कुछ नहीं, थोड़ा depression हो गया मेरे को आजकल. What is थोड़ा?
Yes, sir. So now I'll take another question. So, sir, we often feel that if somebody is mentally ill, there's some cause of the problem, and often family members or even partners, they take responsibility of that. So how do you think a person should communicate to their partners and families, and what role can these people around us, partners, families, can play, and how do you think to what extent it is their responsibility to take care of their partners or husbands or whatever the person is associated in the way?
So Ayushi, I think every individual ultimately has to take care of themselves. What your family can do for you is offer you a great deal of support through whatever transitions or traumas you are experiencing, and for whatever reason, whether that reason is connected with the family itself or whether it's connected with the economy or just internal thoughts that you've been carrying or that have been breeding disharmony in you. I think a family's role, as I said, has to be to have a lot of faith in the person. If someone is saying that they are experiencing pain, for example, if an elderly man says, I'm experiencing pain in this part, they'll say, Baap re, what if it's a heart related issue? Chalo, let's go to the ER. But this kind of urgency is not displayed when someone says, I'm feeling like I can't sleep at night, or I have a loss of appetite, or I have no desire to meet people, even people who I would consider my friends. And these are all common symptoms of depression, right? Or I've suddenly lost a lot of weight or suddenly gained a lot of weight. Or the fact that, I'm not able to remember things. I just have blackouts and, I feel like I don't know what day of the week it is anymore. So these are all common symptoms of depression as well. So it's very important that families know that जैसे BP diabetes के बारे में हम लोग बात करते हैं, बड़ी normal सी बात है. वैसे we must, even if we don't understand what's happening with someone who is in pain and trauma, we must navigate them to the right professionals. So a psychotherapist or counselor like me, we specialize in talk therapy. We will talk and, help them to alter their attitudes and schedules and their behaviors to get them better adjusted. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor who's gone to medical school with an MD in psychiatry. He can give you pills and prescriptions which may, like SSRIs, etc., which will actually help with those mood fluctuations. Then a clinical psychologist is someone who will conduct psychometric testing and determine, and it's a diagnostic sort of nosedive into what exactly is plaguing this individual. So there are so many professions. People say psychiatrist, psychologist, psychotherapist interchangeably. So first a rule is become aware of the difference in the professions. Okay, a psychotherapist can't give out pills. A psychiatrist is not trained in behavior therapy or cognitive therapy of any kind. And a clinical psychologist may not be trained as a counselor, right? Even those who do their masters in psychology can choose clinical or counseling. These are two different streams, not the same thing. So, at least in India. So I think the support that is extended has to be extended, firstly, unconditionally. There has to be a lot of faith placed in someone who is obviously complaining about something that is bringing them, uh, you know, bringing them a lot of discomfort. The discomfort must be taken at face value. Discomfort must not be rubbished. So what is this psychology and all rubbish? Mind why हमारे टाइम में कुछ नहीं होता, दादाजी 5 रुपए लेके आए थे. You can't be that kind of insensitive, callous, tone deaf individual in today's society. If someone is in trouble and they are coming to you, please listen to them. Please trust them. If you don't trust them, ask yourself an even deeper question. Why can't you trust people in your own house? How are you going to trust people outside if you can't be united or you can't be strong as a team within the family? फिर बाहर की दुनिया तो आपको ढोल की तरह बजाएगी यार. अंदर घर का माहौल सेट करो, फिर सोसाइटी को चेंज करने की उम्मीद रखो. आपके 4 लोग ही आप सेट नहीं कर पा रहे हो, दुनिया बदलने चले, ये भी बात हो जाती है ना. So yeah, that's what I feel.
So lastly, I wanted to ask you, how do places like schools, colleges, and offices, how can they be better equipped to deal with the issue of mental health? Because those are really formative years in your life, like school, and then when you move to college, you meet a lot of new people, you have different experiences in offices, you probably spend a lot of your time there after a certain point. So how can such places be better equipped in dealing with the issue of mental health, and more importantly, how can we have more awareness in those places? Because sometimes, especially in school, we don't realize before saying or doing things without realizing that it might have a long-lasting impact on somebody.
I think these all boil down to hiring choices, Saransh. Do you want to hire someone with a B.Ed, with an M.Phil, or someone who knows psychology? So it has to be a balance. You cannot eliminate one particular type. But you know, they say you need a B.Ed to be a teacher, etc. in a school. But the B.Ed degree doesn't have a psychology module installed in it that is of any significance. So it's a lot of teachers who teach kindergarten kids they don't have their bearings in even basic concepts of psychology. They wouldn't know the difference between Carl Jung and chocolate milkshake. And that's okay. It's not part of their training. So it's important to get not just sensitive individuals as part of your team of people in charge of taking care of the children, whether those children are 6-year-old or whether they're 16 years old. Psychology का कुछ तो training होना चाहिए. So send them to us at the Heart to Heart Counseling Center. We offer like training programs, and our programs are like 1.5 months long. It's not like a 2-3 year engagement. Okay, 1.5 months you can learn most of what you need to learn to at least practice counseling skills, and sort of be in a better position to extend that kind of support, because that kind of support is required here. So the more people you have who have that training, who are sensitized and who are empathetic to the many vagaries of life and the situations that they'll have to deal with, ऐसे लोग आप लाओगे, ट्रेनिंग वाले लोग, तो मामला बदल सकता है हल्के से, थोड़ा थोड़ा थोड़ा. इट्स बेबी स्टेप्स यार. ओवरनाइट तो कुछ नहीं बदलता इस दुनिया में. यू एंड आई नो दिस. सो इट्स अबाउट मेकिंग द राइट हायर्स. Okay, it's about finding the right balance between your academicians and your empaths, right? So that's what I feel. सही लोगों को लेके आओ, वो सही काम कर लेंगे, with some hits and misses, which is normal for any profession.
Right, true. So I would just like to thank you very much for taking the time out and talking to us today. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom with us and your valuable thoughts. And I hope that when this comes out and people see it, they take away something from it, and that helps them to contribute to a better society. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. And where are you planning to publish this, ZTV? Tell me. I mean, I would like to share the link with my friends.
Sure. I am not really sure, but I think it will definitely be out on IGTV.
So here's my message for you guys. Whatever you do, don't forget to have fun in your lives. All right, life is not a race to be finished, because the end of the race is you die. All right, so it's not about who reaches the end the quickest. It's a journey. Enjoy it. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't forget to smile. Read a lot of books. Make a lot of friends. Do a lot of dumb things, and then feel proud about them once you've become wiser. That's life. It's iterative. We all learn to be wise through the gallows of silliness. All right, we've all passed through that. When I was younger, I've done a lot of dumb shit as well. I'm sure you will do it as well, despite the wisdom of these insta lives. So don't be so hard on yourself. We're all adapting to this new normal, this strange world that the COVID has, created. So be safe, stay indoors, keep your hands washed, keep your minds clean as well. All right, seek help if you need help. I would say, go for at least one session with a therapist, suiting your requirement and budget, and see how you feel. We're not all these creepy guys in business suits telling you to be positive and seize the day. We're here to give you a reality check and offer you perspectives and education. So that's what I have to offer, and that's what I feel.